What's going on, everybody? Real quick before you start the episode, I just want to apologize. My settings were way off on my microphone. I'm not sure how I missed that. I'll probably have a little story time on on that, but I had a great conversation with Jose. His microphone is clear and his audio is clear, so I was very happy about that at least. So I hope you enjoy the episode, and we'll get these bugs sorted out. So enjoy the episode. Thank you.
Hold up. That's terrible.
Is it?
All right.
Make it clap.
Hey.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right. This might be the first podcast that the guest actually helped the setup. You know what I'm saying? Like Rogan's hanging out, and then like somebody pulls up and it's like, hey, you got to change the setting. But he got Jamie though, so
Yeah. He does.
I'm gonna let it give myself a little slack there. A little bit of nerves. I'm gonna be honest.
Listen, man. Honestly, the best thing is that go through trial and error, and at some point you just
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So don't worry about it.
Learning process.
It ain't no thing, bro.
All right, man. All right. So we got one camera set up. Got the guest cam here. The little introduction. You know what I mean? We're here with Jose.
What's up?
Yep. Entrepreneur. Actually, I'm gonna let you kind of describe. How would you describe yourself? I mean,
I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy. I mean, like I could give you a description of what other people say of me, but personally, I just feel like I'm just a guy trying to get through. I don't particularly look at myself as anything super special, but what I do is just a lot of things that I love. Like curiosity is kind of what moves the ball with me. You know what I mean? So, but I do own several businesses, so people would categorize me as an entrepreneur. I love the arts. I love comic books and huge geek or nerd or whatever you want to call it. So, I just love pop culture, man.
Yeah. I feel like I got to know you the first time in the barbershop, primarily. Came in there looking. I needed a cut. I had a terrible fade. You can't even call it a fade. And I remember coming in there and kind of met you in there. Started coming in. Now got a whole bunch of cousins and stuff going in there.
Oh yeah.
But ever since I've got to meet you and stuff, yeah, super hard working. Honestly, one of the hardest working guys that I know. And very creative. Always looking for the opportunity, and not from a bad place. It's like it's hustle, but it's like ambition. You know what I mean? It's not greed, nothing like that.
So it's actually kind of cool that you met me in the barbershop, because there's a lot of people around here that meet me in the gym, and so there's probably like a really difference in what people think about me. Like, because if you meet me in the barbershop, it's all like I'm working, we're having fun. I'm always wanting to speak to people and see like what they're into and ask them about themselves. If you meet me at the gym, it's like, hey, it's time for you to kind of shut up, do your job, and let's get this done. So you have to wear multiple hats in multiple places. And when I'm in a position of like these guys could get killed out there, I have to be a little bit tougher, and I'm very strict, and I don't have time for bullshit. Like I actually got a kid came into the gym and he started making some jokes. And I was like, yo, bro, we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a place where we gotta be serious. So he's but at the barbershop, it's a completely different feel, because it's more community, and it's more of a really awesome vibe where you're able to get to know one another. And even if you have differences in opinion, you can always just be like, all right, but vamos a hablar. Let's talk about this.
You know talk about it for what we get the cut. I mean, there's been times when myself or other customers even, where we're having a conversation, and then the person before me stick around, or I'll stick around part of the next dude's cut, and it's just it's you do have a conversation with people who maybe you wouldn't always normally, and just for whatever reason, with interest or whatever it might be. You know what I mean?
I feel like it's a safe space, like and we provide that. I think men need like social clubs. You know what I mean? And the barbershop is the perfect version of a social club that, you pay once every few weeks, you come, you get a haircut, you get to have fun, you get to BS with a lot of guys. And then on top of it, you're able to talk like serious conversations that maybe people are genuinely afraid of. And I love that.
All right.
I mean, you know me, dude. Like anybody, any of the audience, they don't know me. It's like, bro, I would literally walk into a room and just be like, yo, I
And
heard
we,
LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan, and then just walk away from the
yeah,
conversation and just watch people bicker back and forth. Not that I
mm,
believe that,
right,
or even if I do, it
yeah,
doesn't matter because
mm,
the point is, I just like to get people
mm,
talking because for the most part, most people spend times on their phone just buried, man, staring into their phone, and I'm like, bro, there's somebody around you, right next to you, that's super interesting that you don't know. It's like get to know them, tell them, be like, hey, how you doing? My name's Jose, or this is Jerry, or
mm,
whatever it may be. But shout out to Jerry, he's one of my main customers at the shop. Love
okay,
that guy. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's important to have community with one another and have conversations, and even conversations that are difficult. Like we just went through one of the most difficult periods in
right,
history.
mm,
So or in our history,
yeah,
just put it that way. But at those points, I love sparking those
mm-hmm,
conversations because in a point of division,
mm-hmm,
I prefer that everybody sees that we have more in common.
right, right, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you do a good job of that. Like obviously, like the conversations that we've had there before. Um, but at the end of the day, it's like before you're not gonna let. I would never leave there and not dap you up, and, give you a hug and stuff. So it's like it's different than like either getting in an echo chamber online or just going there just to argue. You know what I'm saying? Like we're having a real conversation. And also there's real consequences. When you're
oh
talking with
yeah,
somebody.
oh yeah.
So
Like, but far too many times, I think that people are genuinely afraid of having conversations that may be a little bit controversial because of what you're taught. Like you're taught you shouldn't speak about religion or you shouldn't speak about politics or even sports. But the truth is, like, I feel like people need to understand that you don't need to win an argument. And most of the time, if you're just having a conversation, it's not an argument. It's only when people get fiery and
mm,
you know what I mean? Sometimes when I see people get like really passionate, I just kind
mhm.
of smile and I'm like, well, what do I know? You know what I mean? You just
Right.
throw the well, what do I know? I feel like I should say this and we should have this conversation. But if it doesn't work for you, that's cool. I just want you to know how I feel about it, and then it's not a big deal. I'm still gonna just like you said, I'm gonna dap it up with you. I'm gonna show you respect in public. I'm gonna show you respect privately because that's what it is to be a man. But people are so tribal, so like it's funny. Like I really enjoy this community, right? I'm moved here about 10 years ago, and I fell in love with home. Small communities, small time vibe, but everybody's really loving within the community. And then on top of it, like people are super competitive, and I love that. Like I love that aspect. Like some people might not enjoy that, but I really love the entrepreneurial sense that people have here. And it's like you see these young kids, they get out of school at 13, 14 years old. They got a business by the time they're 15, 16. They own 3 or 4 houses by the time
Mhm.
17, 18. If I would have known that, I would have been out here a long time ago making
Right.
money. I mean,
Yeah, it's totally different. Even I mean, I spoke with you. This is something that anybody who's watching might not know yet. But with us moving to New Mexico and stuff, that's one thing that is completely different out there. Not to say there's not like there's definitely hustlers and stuff and like people working hard and being entrepreneurial in the way that they can be. So for example, on the res you have people beadwork and that type of stuff, like the native traditional stuff. Um, but around here is very unique in the sense that there is every community has a wood shop, has a lawn or whatever it is. I mean, they're competing there, and it's not in a negative way. There's enough people here who support each other and stuff. You can get pretty much whatever you need in your town or the town over.
and another cool thing is like for sports, like
Mm,
I've been trying to bring mixed martial arts here a little bit more. When I came here, I was just trying to find something to do for myself.
mm,
And so with trying to find something to do for myself, it kind of opened doors to start a business. But I had no reason or want or need to even open up a business. I was just being selfish. I just wanted to train. I wanted to be better for me. And what ended up happening was um, I start training under a guy here, just trying to find the opportunities to have little victories, right? Because like I feel like sometimes people goal set, they set so big that when they set a goal and it's so big that if they don't see progress, it kind of messes with them, and then they get deterred from their original goal, and they want to kind of sit back a little bit and like, all right, well, this isn't working. Well,
mm,
you know, Usain Bolt worked what, like 4 to 6 years for like 14 seconds or something, some crazy number like that. Like I'm probably wrong on that,
Yeah.
but I know he has a quote where he says like some of you guys will quit without understanding that. And for me, I figured the martial arts was the perfect segue point to success because of having the opportunity to you start off with a white belt and then work hard, and then in a year or a few years you might get your blue belt. Or for me, it was green. I went white, green, then blue. I went from blue to purple, and then from purple to brown, and then second brown, third brown, and then you go on until you get your black belt. Now, it started like that for me, and every progression just opened up another door. It wasn't like, okay, now I'm at this belt and I'm good to go. No, it was like, all right, now what's next? You know what I mean? And that continued to feed my curiosity and my hunger. So I felt like jiu-jitsu was the perfect thing for it. And the reason I go into that is because like around here, I see a lot of people that they need that. Like they really need something with a small victory to get them over that next hump or that next mount, and then show them there's something even broader past the next horizon. And once they see that, I mean, Tony Montana, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a famous quote in there I'm not gonna say, but like, if they can see that, they'll understand that it's just about opportunity, and you have to create that opportunity. And when you create that opportunity, you got to make sure you grasp it and you move forward with it. And I've been very blessed in this, in that one aspect, that in this community, people have shown a lot of love and respect, and I've been able to be integrated within that community. Like I feel like I'm from here. Like I don't wear my Boston cap no more.
Right. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? No, I got my Cleveland. I got the Ohio State cap. Like I'm with it.
All right.
You know what I mean? Even though I'm not a huge fan, but I genuinely want to support, like people support out here, because it's a beautiful thing. Like I've gone to games where people, I'm like, hey, is your kid playing? And they're like, nope.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you have kids? Nope.
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they go on into like all the stats of the kids that are playing on the field, and I'm like, but you don't have a kid? Like where I'm from, they'd be like, I don't know, bro.
Officer, where you at?
Yeah, but here I'm like, bro, they're showing a lot of love and support to this community. They know everybody here. You know what I mean? They know this guy's stats. They're gonna watch this person go from the Pee Wee leagues to the big leagues and show love and say, hey, I knew that kid. I bought his T-shirt. That's beautiful.
Right.
It's truly beautiful.
I mean, you know how big the obviously Ohio State Michigan thing is. There's a guy from went to Airway. He played for Michigan. I think he just graduated. And even then, it's like, I mean, we got the bad end of it. I think this last time.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like, hey, that's somebody who's winning from the community. And at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you're gonna root for your team. That's cool. But like, you can also like, hey, he won. Hopefully he's gonna get an opportunity to further his career in football or whatever he goes on to do next. But you still show love to that person because they're from. You know?
Yeah, the rivalries. In the end of the day, it's all fun. You know what I mean? And it's a good thing to have a sense of pride. I think that's good. Like I really truly enjoy that people have that sense of pride. They like to attach. Again, we're tribal, right? But honestly, man, I think it's a beautiful thing to see support. And I feel like there's certain places where you might live and not ever know your neighbor. Like I grew up like that, where we live in like in a building, and in the building there's like, I don't know, 400 units in that community, and I might know like 5 people in that community. It's usually kids I went to school with or rode the bus with. I don't know anybody else. You know what I mean? Like maybe I know the old guy down the street who was handing out candy to kids when we were younger, which wasn't a big deal. You know what I mean? And then things kind of change. Society changes and the norms change. And so you realize like, it's not cool anymore. You know what I'm saying? But where I grew up in Brockton, Mass, primarily, because I moved around a lot, that's where I feel like I got my gusto from. You know what I'm saying? Like those streets made me who I am now, and the character that I developed, the toughness or whatever it was there that I grew up. You know, seeing things a little bit tougher, and seeing people in poverty or even just like you know, grinding through the struggle to make it. They call that place the city of champions, and I truly believe if you can make it from there, you can be a champion. So Um, but I guess that kind of goes back into that segue where it's like people genuinely need community. You know, like it says, it takes a village to raise a man and all that stuff. And I truly believe that. And I had community before. It's just not on the same level. You know what I mean? Like you might have a small community of friends that you build and stuff like that. This is different. Like I walk through these communities and I feel like I'm known and I know people and shake hands with a lot of people. And partially that's going to be because I'm a barber, because I cut a lot of people's hair, or how many clients I have on list. But it's also because of the martial arts and also the type of guy I am. I'm genuinely curious. Like when somebody comes into my chair, I don't just want to cut your hair, you know, like, hey, what do you want?
Right.
I want a two on the sides, off the top, you know?
And then
And
silence.
that's it. Yeah, that shit's annoying to me.
Yeah.
I apologize if I cuss, but
No, you're good, bro.
that shit's truly annoying to
Yeah.
me because I'm like, just got to sit here listening to this guy breathe. Like, what is, you know what I mean? Or I can just ask you, hey, like, how'd your day go, man? And when they tell me throughout the day, so what kind of stuff are you interested in? I ask that question all the time. What are your interests? And usually you start finding out that like people do have a lot in common. They really do. And then when you do hit that one that like, you're like, so what do you like? And the guy's like, well, kind of, I like this or whatever. And then you're like, oh shit, I love that too, man. And then boom, now you have a connection. You have a jump point to be able to start friendship or relationship. And I truly believe that that's lacking in certain areas and that it needs to be more present in certain things. This community is very well known for community, for its sports, and also for its spirituality. It's faith-based thing. So like, if you really want to get to know me, if you really want to be able to talk to me, the best thing to do is to try to understand where I stand at the moment that I'm standing. You know what I mean? And then from there, I mean, I think that's
Real quick, I want to get into your background
sure,
a little bit.
sure.
So you said you brought up mass.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't born there.
No, actually, so my father was in the service. My mother and father were born. They were. It's funny because my mom was born in Puerto Rico, I believe it was. I might be wrong on this, but my mom was born here
Mm.
and raised in Puerto Rico.
Mm.
My dad was born in Puerto Rico and raised
Opera.
of the opposite, so
Okay.
vice versa. And I might be wrong about that. I might catch hell
Alright.
about it later if they hear this on
You get a text
podcast or
message
whatever.
later.
You know what I'm saying? But they met in Massachusetts. They got married young. They did the thing, kind of young couple thing where they're together. Things don't work out. They go their separate ways. So I live with my mom. My dad was off being an entrepreneur. That's probably where I get a lot of that entrepreneurial sense. But both of my parents are very creative. And so like my mother does crafts and stuff like that, and my father is artist and like anything that he does as well. So I kind of got that sense of creativity from them, and also seeing things come together when you do it yourself. So anyways, I live with my mom and my sister. Both parents remarried. They have other families that they start building. And that's how I got this big family that I got. But I was born in Fort Benning, Georgia, while my father was in.
Okay. You mentioned your dad was into like entrepreneurial spirit, and he did those types of ventures. What type of things did he do? In terms of like side hustles or primary things or whatever that was.
Well, I'm pretty sure there was a lot of different things that he did to make money. But when my dad got out of the service, him and his brother and his father started a janitorial company. And I believe when I asked him, like, Dad, why'd you choose that? He was like, well, it was what was available. It was easy to start up. And my dad's a very practical guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's not about doing what you think is going to be your dream job. You know what I mean? But it's about what's going to be a good job to be able to get you there. And so he started his business. It was like just him, a mop and a bucket, and his dad. And they had one client. And the shout out to clients were like the Duffy brothers. These like as a little kid, I used to go into their office buildings, and these people were really great to me growing up. but I saw them give a level of respect to my dad, and my dad have super respect for the one client. Like I think for years and years and years, the guy who gave him his first job, my dad would go personally. When that guy would call and ask for a job to be done, my dad would personally go. This guy's got like
Oh, wow.
700, 800 employees at this point, and he still goes personally to go do that. That's like true gratitude. So he started the janitorial company. He built it from a mop and bucket to, I believe my dad was top 500 Latino business owners at one point. Tons of employees. And then he sold out of that business and got into, or no, he didn't. He sold out of that business later on. But up until the point that he sold, I mean, he had his hands in a restaurant. He had like a telecommunications company. Like
Wow.
early on, like, you know, when people came from other countries and they had to call home, like it was super freaking expensive.
Okay.
Like my dad, I remember he had this little corner shop where he had phone booths set up, and you just go and buy your calling cards from him, and then you'd be able to, from there, you'd be able to call your family back.
Kind of some of the like the Latin stores, like where they go stuff, they'll have the little calling cards. It's kind of that type of stuff.
Yes,
Okay, I got you. Yeah, I remember. My dad used to always pop in those places, have to buy those and whatnot. So.
No. It's and it like that's the again, and that's the kind of guy that my dad is, where he's literally taking whatever opportunity. He's like, oh, okay, so these people have to buy this calling card. They have to go home. They got no privacy because sometimes, and some people might not understand this, but as a person who migrated here, right, like your family, you'll understand that these people come from other countries, and it's very difficult to do it all by yourself. But they're here hustling and like truly grinding and working 2 and 3 jobs and doing whatever they can. And a lot of times they're sharing a little space. That's why I never look down on anybody who's grinding, like, because I've seen it where my dad has employed people who come here and they work hard, and there's like 10 of them in a 2-bedroom apartment, and they're busting their asses. They're sending money back home. They're paying. They're doing everything that they can here, and they got no privacy. So it's like you give them a chance to have a little bit of privacy at phone booths. Like my dad capitalized on those things where it was smart, the type of businesses that he did. But he was also helping La Comunidad Latina. Like that's important.
It
So
was connecting families. That
I respect the hell out of it. And my mom did her hustles. Like she had like, like growing up Spanish. You have quinceañeros and you have like all kinds of, and like a baby shower and birthdays. Everything has to have like a little knick-knack. Right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like an adornito. And you got to have something like that. And people will take that home. And so my mother was really big into doing stuff.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'm always, obviously, like my mom, for example, she was American. She was actually a little Amish girl, back in the day. And her parents picked up, moved. I don't know how many kids they had at that point. But I want to say like 7 or 8 at that point, maybe. Moved to Honduras, and so she grew up down there. So she's blonde hair, blue eyes, but she's fluent Spanish. So growing up, she'd always be speaking Dutch, English, Spanish on the same phone call, talking to siblings. So even though she was born here and she primarily grew up down there.
Yeah.
So, and obviously my dad, Honduran, grew up, a lot of poverty and stuff when he was younger. And so when they came out with similar things in terms of look for the opportunity, look for the thing, and there's a different, I mean, obviously entrepreneurs that are here already, right? But like there's a certain type of thing going to a place where maybe is not home, right? Or wasn't home at that point. Now I think this is home, to them for sure. But there's a different type of hustle that takes, I feel like, and I think that I hear that hearing your dad's story kind of reminds me of that,
Yeah, I mean, you gotta take opportunities when they come, and you can only go as far as you decide, And the one thing that I understood from what my dad was trying to say to me, like my father and I had a conversation recently. He was like, "Son, I think me being tough on you really paid off." And I do feel like it did. You know what I mean? But at first, you see the world changing. Like it's kind of a different thing for me now, looking back on things and being a parent now, like I got 4 girls and they're going through their own changes and the world's changing for them. Like the world that me and you are in right now, we can still have certain opinions, right? Like certain opinions that are brought up with our generation, they're going to die out at some point, and those kids are going to be living in a different world. And so this is why like kids don't respect their parents as much. Like not that I have that trouble right now, but when me and you talk about something, it comes from a standpoint of how we grew up and what we saw and what we're living right now. That's normal, right? And my kids will have that too, but their generation has norms that are different than our norms. Like for me, you know, I go to Columbus and I see things and I'm like, wow, bro. Like this is different, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? I respect that those are the changes that you're having, but I'm just like, I don't feel comfortable.
Different,
You know what I'm saying? Like it's like that's not my gig. You know what I'm saying? But I think we're in a particularly interesting place where we saw things growing up because of the struggle that present themselves because of the background that we have or the ethnicity that we have that make things. So what I'm saying is like we particularly have an interesting dynamic in which you grew up from one part of your parents, like one portion of your parent is like they grew up from immigrancy, and your other parent migrated to that country, lived that lifestyle, lived that way. And so coming back, you have a different perspective on how things are. I think that's beautiful. And I think that's why people should move around a little. For me, seeing all these families, like I didn't have it that rough, like where we came from a different, like, no, I've been here. I haven't left here. I moved around a lot though. And I think that also kind of molded the influences that I had. Like my mother moved us around a bunch, and that there could be different reasons why that happened that I've never really asked. But my assumption is she's a single mom. She's trying to make it, you know what I mean? And with that happening, like she's got to go where we can go. So sometimes we go stay with family. Sometimes it's she finds a place, she found a job, or she was trying to do something. And that particularly gave us a lot of insight on how different things are in different areas of the country. And I think that gives me particularly a perspective of why I understand people having such strong stances. Like I remember like the gun control thing was huge around here for a little bit.
Right.
And people like this, we should have our guns, we should have this. And then I go back home to Massachusetts or what I used to consider home. And people are like, oh, you hear this? Like people shouldn't have guns and everything. And it's because guns are associated in a negative aspect and a negative light out there because you don't want an AR-15 in a project building. I get it. But out here, you got freedom, you got more liberty, you've got guns are a tool. Yeah, and they're a tool. They really are a tool. It's like a fork and knife, you know what I mean? Like if I got to put dinner on the table, I'm going to go shoot the deer. I'm going to go eat the deer. Like it's different. But I think having that perspective from being all over the country gives you a place of gray area. Like I can really be in a gray area and understand that there's a lot of shades of gray. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's hard for me to understand people who, and then again, maybe I'm making a judgment call there, but like people where everything is black and, you know what I mean? Like to me, that it's either like their way of coping somehow, like it's just they just want clarity, you know what I mean? Or it's just like willful, like I just want to, you know what I'm saying? Like it's, I don't know what it is. Like
I just feel like you truly cannot commit 100% to one thing, even if it's all you know, because the world is huge and there's a vast amount of information and knowledge that you're consistently going to learn about. And if you give yourself that opportunity to learn, things will be better. You know what I mean? Like truly, when everybody was pinning things against each other and this guy's angry and that guy's angry, I'm just sitting there like play devil's advocate on everything.
Yeah.
Because truly I have no attachment to any of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there was things that I was like, well, this I kind of feel strongly about. And the reason I feel strongly about is because I'm a businessman. And from a businessman's perspective, like I got to do what's right for my business or what's right for my family.
Mm.
But then there's other things that I'm like, can understand from a social aspect why we need these.
Why there might be some nuance, similar to the gun thing. If you're living in a city where there's potentially more crime, you're living, I think, closer quarters to like
Mhm.
it just builds like anxiety or like the tension of if somebody like if we're here, there's not that. I mean, there's a lot of people around, but like there's a little separation. I mean, there's a little breathing. I've never lived in an apartment building, but I can imagine like dorms, for example, like it just feels like there's people all around, and if somebody goes a little crazy,
It's like the cup of sugar thing, right?
Yeah,
Like if
yeah.
I gotta ask for a cup of sugar to my neighbor, I'd be
Right.
like, just open up my window, knock on the other one. Hey,
right,
let me borrow some sugar, bro.
yeah,
You know, like it's you don't want something to happen in your neighbor's house. You know what I mean? Because it's uncomfortable because you can hear everything or stuff like that. But out here, it's a little different. I mean, mind your business. And it's funny because mind your business is something that I learned in the city, right? Like, mind your business, bro. I ain't got nothing to do with you. But out here, small community, they talk a lot and stuff like that. So that should be the thing here. Like, yo, mind your business a little bit. Like, that ain't got nothing to do with you. I mean, but it's not, you know. But and it's kind of like it helps though. It's like and this is why I don't mind it because it really does help. Because as people, did you hear about this kid making it to this? Did you hear about this business that's being opened? So like, I take that as the way. How do you say it?
You're willing to put up with that because even though they're gonna talk shit potentially other times, like or spread rumors or
Yeah,
whatever.
but I've never really had to deal with it like too crazy. Like I hear a lot, like they're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, this guy trained with you," and I'm like, "Really?" Yeah, and they're like, "I'm like, what's his name?" And then they tell me the guy's name, and in my mind, I'm like, "That guy never trained with me." But what I do say is like, "Hey, would you like to come by?"
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I don't care that this guy made up some nonsense about training with me because to me, I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, live your fantasy, live your story, do whatever it is that makes you happy. But in the end of the day, like I know for a fact you either didn't show up or you're telling a tale or something like that. But what I do know is you just gave my business the opportunity to have a little bit more shine, and I'm gonna appreciate that and use that as a network link. Like
Mhm.
I'm just not that guy to take things so personally. Like I mean, now if you're making crazy claims about me, then I gotta clarify that. But at the same time, I'm just like, you know.
And the type of person who's gonna do that, and especially like false things, at some point, people know how they are. You know what I'm saying? They're
Yeah.
not gonna believe like, yeah.
I think there's an art to certain things like I remember like I worked for this guy and a lot of people used to tell me, oh, this guy's, you know, full of shit and like all this kind of stuff. And then I listened to the guy tell me stories and the stories were like super out there, but I loved them. Like I loved the person himself. And then I also loved the stories because it felt like, you ever watch that movie Big Fish? Okay, Big Fish is like a really great movie where the story's playing out through the kid's eyes. Every story that his dad tells him carries weight and it's legit.
So get the
But
little,
it in the kid's imagination, it gets so big,
yeah.
right? And like I love that because when I'm listening to this guy tell me this story, I'm like, yes, I had like just straight exaggerations, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's fun because it's like, hey, you know what? To him, this was huge. You know what I mean? And why am I gonna be raining on his parade and be like, that's, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't care. Tell it
Yeah.
whatever way you want. I want to hear the story. I'm interested. I'll choose whether I'm going to believe it or not. I feel like in a lot that happens so much in life. Like, you know, somebody would tell a story and instead of appreciating the value of the story, whether comedic, whether true, or
Yeah.
whatever, because like, don't be so gullible, first off.
Right.
But the other thing is like, they right away want to fight against it, you know, just, oh, that's BS or that's this. It's like, bro, just let them tell the story. Give him his little 5 minutes on the podium.
Yeah.
And then whether you believe him or not, it don't matter. You know what I mean? Like, just
Appreciate
whatever.
the entertainment. Like,
Yeah. I mean, like, shit, what are you going to go back and keep,
yeah.
you know, just go back to work? No, I'd rather work be a little bit more fun because some guy decided he's going to tell me a crazy story.
Right. Sometimes I feel like, yeah, like in that situation, some people are just straight up lying, you know what I mean, for no reason. It's like, why are you lying about that? But some people, it's more like they're trying to convey how they actually felt. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, yeah.
like to your point, like the kid, like that's how he feels, that's how he wants to imagine it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's fine.
But you gotta also, like, as you're viewing things, not get so attached to it. Right? Like, personally, like, I feel like that's very important. Like, it doesn't, remember that that person lived that the way that they lived it, and you gotta be okay with they lived it that way in their opinion or in their mind. Now, if you're there and somebody's telling a story and it involves you directly, and you're like,
That's a
"Wait,
problem.
you full of shit, bro. Like, don't bring me in, don't bring me
Yeah.
into this. I don't want nothing." Like, because then that, like, I met a guy. He's actually trains with me. He's a good guy. His name's Mike. I love this guy. He tells me, he's like, "Man, I heard you were fighting in the woods and stuff like that." And I was
Wait,
like,
what?
"What?" I
You
was
got
like,
Fight Club?
I was like, I never fought in the woods. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, this guy's telling stories about you. Man, come on, bro. Like, I never did that. I wouldn't be here right now being able to do this. And I laugh about that stuff because it's like, you just hear other people's versions of stories, and it's like playing meatball, right? Like, you tell me one thing, and then that person hears it, and it just keeps rolling and rolling down the hill, and slowly little pieces of the story get distorted. And I personally feel like that's where the best jokes come from, because like, it starts off one way and just keeps going. But no, I'm just a normal guy. I don't go fighting in the woods. Don't do anything crazy.
If you set that up, let me know.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, it's just, might as well light a ring of fire, bro.
I did have a question
Sure.
for you. With moving and stuff. So with us moving, and I have a 12-year-old son. I have a 5-year-old daughter, 2-year-old son. What could your parents, or what did they, or what could they have done, or how do you perceive? Obviously, it's hindsight, you know, but like, to either make it easier, to help in that process, or
So the transition of, I had an interesting upbringing, and kind of like one of those things where I'm the little guy in every room that I go to. I truly am. Like, I walk into a room and I got 13-year-old kids that are bigger than me. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. My genetics are like that. I'm short. I mean, and so growing up, I was always the smallest guy everywhere that I went. And so you learn a few things when you're the smallest person in the room. You learn you either got to be funny, you know what I mean, or you got to be able to defend yourself when things happen. I personally feel like community is going to be the most important thing. So, like, you know, if you're transitioning to a new state and you're bringing your kids there, you got to know the dynamic of what those kids are living and what those people are living. So you maybe, like, get your kid into like a particular sport, have them join like a group like Magic the Gathering, like, you know, whatever. Like, I really love the card games and stuff like that, but like card shops, comic book stores, any place that you can build a community and your kid can be able to make friends. I think that's the best thing. Sports clubs, martial arts clubs, stuff like that. Because other than that, like in school, it's just got too many cliques. You got too much stuff, and you know how it goes. You went to school, and it's hard at first. You know, new place, new kid, whatever. But the kid seems like a likable guy. You should be able to get into any place, you know. And then just be careful and be aware of the people that they're around. You know what I mean? Because like when we moved to Brockton, I'd been all over the place, but this was the first time I'm like 13 at the time, maybe a little younger. That's when I'm going over to people's houses. Up until that point, it was like I'm staying close to that house, you know what I mean? Spending time with family and other stuff. But now I'm going over to people's houses a lot more. I'm crashing at my buddy's house, doing stuff. And now the influences are changing a lot. But that'd be my suggestion.
it's a very specific question, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Because I mean, you want to make sure you do what's best for your kids, right?
So you moved around a lot with your mom, you said. At what point do you end up back in Massachusetts, or you were moving around in Massachusetts?
Oh man, like, so we're talking about, I moved around a lot. So I remember as a kid, the first place that I remember moving was Florida. We lived in Haitian Miami. I was there for a few years. And by that point, this is before my memory, right? Like, I had lived all around the city of Waltham, Massachusetts. And then we had lived in Puerto Rico. Like, I had bounced back and forth between Georgia, Alabama, Puerto Rico, because my father's in the military. And then we go from there to Massachusetts. From Massachusetts, we moved to Florida. From Florida, I moved back to Massachusetts. Then from there, we moved to Puerto Rico again. From Puerto Rico, we come back to Mass. Then from Mass, I go to Michigan. And now we live in Grand Rapids, and then we lived in Flat Rock, and then we moved to Detroit. Now we were in Detroit. When I was in Detroit, we weren't allowed to go out. We weren't allowed to do anything. And from there, we moved back to Massachusetts. And then from there, I think we lived in Waltham for a while. My mother remarried. My stepfather's great. Love the guy. He then moves us to where his family was at, which was Brockton, Massachusetts, a little bit tougher. And that's where I spent a good amount of time till I bounced. I was 13. And at 13, I'm like out on my own. I'm just going from place to place, backpack. And it's primarily, a lot of it is, one, I get involved with things that I shouldn't be involved in. I'm also kind of dealing with a lot of trauma and a lot of stuff in the neighborhood. And so like I have to develop a certain character, and I'm like, at some point I'm like, I need to get out of here. So just pack up a backpack and go. And now I start living
At 13.
At 13, man. It's kind of, it's a weird situation because you still have to have guardians. You still have to do stuff like that. But, at 13 years old, I had gotten, I think like my 7th grade year, I gotten into fighting a lot. I mean, like a lot. Fighting every day in school, like for a while, you know what I mean? And I don't want to say like every single day, but I get there, I get suspended, come back, still dealing with the nonsense from the last suspension. I'm fighting again, you know what I mean? And it's kind of a weird situation when you grow up in a really, really tough city where it's like, okay, I got into a fight, I pieced the kid up, or I got pieced up, and then I come back and then I'm being ridiculed about either that I pieced the kid up or that I got pieced up, and everybody's reminding you, oh, you got pieced up by this kid, or you pieced the kid up.
Now you gotta do it again.
I gotta go again. And the kid's coming at me, and it's like, and now he's got a few buddies with him, and it's just like it's that dynamic. But when I moved there, I had a really rude awakening, because where we moved from, or the city of Waltham, was a nice little town. You know what I mean? Like you don't really hear about much going on. And then we get moved to Brockton, and it's like a culture shock for me. It's a lot more urban. People are a little bit tougher out in that city, and they're really quick to tell you, like, some, you know, I don't want to go too far into it.
Yeah.
But when you're in that area, now things change. So I like remember the first day I got there, I go outside to play with the local neighborhood kids. They're like, hey, you want to play some football? They like invite me to come through. And then we get into a fight.
Oh no.
The first day I'm there, this kid whoops my ass. He ends up being a really great friend of mine afterwards. Like, but he just, and then I ask him like, why are we getting a fight? He's like, well, you're in our neighborhood now. We gotta see how tough you are.
Kind of checking your stuff.
Yeah, man. And that's a different thing. But like, now it becomes like, instead of I'm just hanging out with my friends and my friends are backing me, now it's like real clicky, but the cliques aren't so much like it's not just friends, it's like where you're from. And I never experienced that. It's like from one street to the next.
Wow.
These guys are from this place and we're from this place. Instead of we're from a general area, like it's like, no, this is my hood, this is his hood, this is how we're doing it now. And like it was a real culture shock for me. So at that point, I started getting a little tougher and fighting a lot more and doing stuff like that. I'd always done kind of like one way of martial arts or not, because like boxing was in my family. Yeah, things change.
So you mentioned boxing. Your brother boxes, is that right?
So like when I say like my bro Heck and stuff like that, it's a little different. That's like, that guy's my mano.
I got.
Not by familia. You know what I mean? Like that guy's just been with me forever. And so I'm always going to give him that respect with my mano. But it was actually my dad, my uncle, who boxed. And then my mother, when I was really young, like 5, 6 years old, her best friend's nephew was teaching us how to box. A guy named Junito. It was like the first boxing trainer that I had. Then from there, you know, you do karate and stuff like that, and you get into more traditional martial arts. And then I started learning to box at the PAL program. And I was supposed to be going to the PAL program to started first with hockey, free hockey. That's like when I'm in Waltham. Then as you move around, I start learning to break dance, and I'm looking for whatever place that I can go to break dance. But breakdancing was trying to get me out of trouble. And then I'm in like Nashua, New Hampshire, and they have a boxing league. It's like I'm not like technically supposed to be in there because my parental forms weren't signed for that. But I start training there. You know what I mean? And then in Brockton, finding places to train and do whatever. Like it's kind of Brockton's a big boxing community anyway, so you're going to learn whatever. You just got to walk in.
If somebody had to get started with a martial art, which is the first one you would guess for practical, let's say?
It changes. If you're like for competitive based, I would say wrestling. I never particularly had the opportunity to wrestle as a kid, but seeing it so much as a martial artist now, a lot of the kids that I have that do wrestle have a natural transition point. Like they understand the body mechanics a little bit more, and they're able to do things a little bit. The good ones. There's other ones that are great at wrestling, but they have a difficulty transitioning to everything else because it's so deeply ingrained in them that everything starts from that. I think if you're going to try to get your kid into a martial arts and they want to do it for a longevity standpoint, you need to have them in multiple things at once, but just all around toughness, all around being able to understand their own bodies and just how hard that is, because there's a lot of kids that they're not cut out for it because they just don't know what it's like to work hard, you know, like, which is not something particularly that I'd be worried about around here because people know how to work hard. But you see, like, parents bring me their kids, and sometimes they're like, "It needs toughen. We'll get it out of them here." You know what I mean? We will. It's gonna take a while.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You're gonna have to give me a chance. But the kids that come from wrestling, like, I watch them come in my gym and they want to spar right away. They get popped in the mouth, and they're okay with it because they're already used to tough training.
Right.
So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I talked to you a little bit about colleagues and stuff, and I think one thing is, you know, with going to a new school and stuff, I think the benefit, or one of the benefits to any sport, but particularly martial arts, because it is so one-on-one. Like soccer, obviously, like I love soccer, I'm very passionate about it, but there's something about martial arts where you're competing against somebody else, and you know, and I'm sure you're learning from. I've never trained, obviously, so, but where I think that would create confidence in a younger person.
Oh yeah, no, 1,000%. And I watch that happen in my gym a lot. I've got guys that have been with me for 7 years, and like young kids that have been with me for years, and the belt promotions don't come as quick, you know. And they just stick with it. And one, you're building community. Two, you're building yourself up. And three, they watch themselves have these moments of growth every day on the mat. Because one thing about the martial arts is very humbling. You know what I mean? Like I go from neighborhood to neighborhood, and I always respect where I stand. But I watch these guys that walk through and they think they're Billy Badass everywhere they walk, and it's like, puppy, you got another thing coming to you, bro. The fight you think you can win here, you're not gonna win here. You might as well walk yourself up the block and see if you get a chance up there, because right here you're not gonna find it. But that's how it is. Most people are delusional. You know what I mean? They really are delusional in the aspect of they think they're tougher than they are. Now, the one good thing about it is they might be. They might be as tough as they think they are, but they're gonna have to cultivate that skill just like you cultivate anything. You know, you're not just gonna walk in and be Mike Tyson.
The dudes that say,
the icy red. Oh yeah. You're gonna see black, buddy. When you're looking up, you might see black first because you're gonna be unconscious, and then you're gonna see white because you're gonna see lights. It's just it's ridiculous to say you black out. Like, and that's another thing. You black out. You're so full of shit. Like that's the one where I'll be on the side, be like, stick out. I'm telling that stupid story. Like for real, because it's nonsense. It's nonsense.
Yeah.
Like you're always conscious of what you do. The only time you can ever say that maybe you're not conscious of what you do is when you're under the influence of alcohol or you're on the, you know what I mean, or a drug that you truly lose your shit. But that's like the biggest cop out, and like I try to keep it PG, but I'm gonna be honest, like this is the biggest bitch move that you can do. Like, no, truthfully, because it's not taking responsibility for what you do. Oh my God, I blacked out. It's like you hear shit like that with guys who cheat and do stuff like that. It's like, no, cabrón, you didn't black out. You knew what you were doing. You know what I mean? You're using that as an excuse to manipulate somebody. And it's like, and that shows that you're a soft human being. Like, not just a man, because I don't even call you man, that you're soft. You know what I mean? Because if you truly feel like you made a mistake, just say, yo, I made a mistake. I made a bad choice. Like, don't say it was a mistake. I made a bad choice. And with that bad choice that you made, now, you know what I mean? These are the consequences that I got to deal with. But man up to it, you know? Like, when I hear people say, like, oh, I black out, I see red, I go, you're trying to bullshit people to feel that, you know, that they should have a healthy fear of who you are, because you're an asshole.
Yeah.
And because when you decide to have that moment of you being an asshole, you don't want to have any accountability for acting like a jerk. Like, that's the truth.
Do you think how many of those guys that say that type of stuff actually believe it? And how many of them are trying to say that so that they're hoping somebody doesn't actually confront them?
I don't know, like 20%.
Yeah.
I would say 20% of guys actually believe that they're tougher than what they are. And the other guys are just trying to make sure you genuinely are afraid of them.
Just don't start it.
Because they're not real alpha males. Like, it's just kind of the way it is. Like, and even trying to prove your masculinity is like a weird thing to me. Like, right? Like, you want to prove that you're more macho than I am, you're more manly. Right. It's like, I'm 5'3", bro. Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to sit there and walk next to a guy who's super tall and be like, I can kick your ass. Right. You know what I mean?
That's one of the beautiful things about you.
But it's true. Like, I walk into every room and I know, like, okay, listen, I feel that I've trained. I feel that I know how to defend myself. I should feel comfortable now. I'm not going to sit there and gas myself up and be like, I think I could take you. You know what I mean? Like, but a lot of guys do that because they have to, like, test their masculinity against somebody. And it's like, ¿pa qué? Why? You know, why you gotta see if you're tougher than that guy? Like, first off, that ain't gonna matter. That ain't gonna matter. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather make friends with people and know, like, that guy looks kind of tough. Maybe I should have him on my side. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's be friends, buddy, versus the other thing, you know? And, but anyways, that stuff makes me laugh. That's probably the only time I would go back on what we said earlier in the conversation.
Like, actually, I'm correct you on
that.
You
know what, bro? Shut up, bro. Like, get out of here.
Do you get that, like, people coming in there actually to the gym, or is it mostly outside the gym, or, like, you know?
No, it's usually outside the gym, and it's in conversations that are in passing. And it's usually people who don't know what I do.
Okay. So it's not like they know you train and they're trying to prove something.
Unless they're under the influence of alcohol, I've never had to deal with that. Like, seriously, like, I used to hate, and I love the support that I get in the local community. I really do, bro.
Yeah.
Like, when I used to fight and we'd go coming from a fight, win or loss, like, McKelvey's used to be the spot where people would always be super awesome to me and stuff like that. But it'd also be the spot where people are so drunk that, like, I hear.
Is that Millersburg?
Yeah. I hear some people say some wild stuff. Like, so I love the guys at McKelvey's. Like, I'd walk in and they'd be like, now, Jose. And I'm laughing. Everybody's having a good time. We just want to fight. It's great. You know what I mean? He's shouting me out. But then as I'm walking through the night, some guy would come up with his drink and sip his beer and walk up to me and be like, I fought like 40 street fights. And I'd be like, all right, that's good for you, bud.
Yeah.
He'd be like, I think I could take you. And it's just I think the alcohol's getting to your brain, buddy. You know what I mean? Not because I don't think maybe you could beat me, because you possibly could. You know what I mean? I don't know. Again, I'm a humble guy. I respect the fact that everybody's got the same abilities that I have if they cultivate them.
Right.
You know, but I'm just like, get away from me though. Because now you're being threatening and there's no point to that. You know, so I keep myself out of those situations and usually avoid those conversations as much as possible.
Right.
So one, I don't hurt your fragile ego, tough guy, you know, and two, I don't put myself in a compromising position.
So you were still fighting when you moved here, or not?
So actually, I'd taken a long break. Kind of funny how life gives you lessons, and you should truly take those lessons. Like, I didn't truly start competing in the cage until I was 30. I had been competing before then, while I was coming up through the jiu-jitsu ranks. And prior to that, I had competed a little bit. I've always had a competitive uh, sense to me because, like, as a young kid, like I learned to breakdance, and that's something I'd like to touch on a little bit because there's a lot of big influences with that. But the guys used to take us to breakdancing competitions, and it's like a lot of aggression. Like you think dance, you don't get a lot of aggression, but it's a lot of testosterone and a lot of like trying to prove that you're better, and like they talk shit and they got their own way of doing things, and it's fun, you know. So competition is a fun thing for me. But when I was about 18, I started taking things a little bit seriously. Like I really wanted to compete, really wanted to do things. But at this point, I got married young. I had a young family. I was learning about responsibilities over wants and desires and stuff like that. And then I got a lot of aggression at that point because I'm dealing with past traumas and stuff like that that I hadn't really dealt with the way that I should have in a healthy fashion. And so because of that, I took a lot of time off from the martial arts that I shouldn't have, and then other people's opinions. Like again, I'm a silly kid at that point, so I'm allowing other people's opinions. Because I mean, like, oh, well, you shouldn't be fighting, you shouldn't be doing this. You should no, I should have. I should have did everything that I wanted to. But it didn't play out that way. So when I finally did get in a position where I could, I did, and I stopped listening. But it went well.
Mm. Well, I'm gonna get back to the breakdance thing, but
Okay.
real quick before that, how do you? Is there anything that you any exercises mentally or just however you do it in terms of hindsight, right? Like you said, like looking back, man, I could have done this. Look at these years, I could have done. Because I have similar things where I'm like, yeah, I should have done, certain things differently. And
I honestly try not to dwell on it. Unfortunately, there's like a rap song where the dude said like, "Hell is not a place you go when you die." I'm pretty sure it was like Immortal Technique. He said it's a place where you live in regret, thinking about past failures. And I really believe in, without getting too spiritual, like the worst kind of nightmare you can live is in where you feel inadequate, and you feel like I could have did this and I could have did that and I chose not to, or I could have did this and I could, because like the one thing I tell my fighters all the time is like, hey, right now is your time, or you can sit in the bar in 10 years and talk about how great you used to be, or you can never have that where people know who you are, right? That's like kind of the balance. It's like you could be the I coulda guy, or you can be the, well, that shit didn't pan out, I'm gonna do something else, and I'm gonna make something of myself in this aspect of what I've been. I mean, but like regret is the worst thing to have, and I feel like that shit really sucks. So I try really hard not to.
Mm. Yeah, that's I mean that's so true. It's like it's not that. Excuse me, sorry. It's not that necessarily I have things that like, are constant, but you have moments. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's natural. Some people say, no, like it's whatever, like I have no regret. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily true for most people. I think there's certain things where, of course, man, what would it happen if I would have tweaked this a little bit, or to your point, training. What if I would have trained a little harder? You know, in certain situations. And I think now it's like that's part of the reason why this exists is because like this is something I've talked about. You're one of the first people I started seriously talking about it. This was like a couple years, 3 years ago or something, where I started kind of playing with it more seriously. Okay, and I told you're gonna be the first guest I have on.
Yeah.
And then I just kept, some of it was maybe valid, but there's always valid reasons to not do something right away, and a lot of it was not valid. I mean, I could have done a version of this sooner, and so this is my attempt to like, okay, let's control what we can control now, and that just do shit, you know what I'm saying?
So I feel like opportunity, you have to take it when you can, but you also can't off balance yourself in the sense of like, one thing is to be afraid of it, and the other thing is to understand like, hey, I got responsibilities I got to take care of. This is something I want to dedicate time to, but I have to find the time. And it's never a wrong time to start something. Like fight culture is such an interesting thing, and it really does mold me in everyday life. I hear people tell, hey, I want to try your gym out. Okay, so come by on Monday. Oh no, I got to get in shape first.
I was
Eh,
guilty of that in the beginning too.
But,
You know what I'm
you
saying?
know what I'm saying? But it's
Yeah.
like, why do you have to get in shape to
Mm-hmm.
do something that's going to get you in shape
Right.
for what it is? Like, I can't run a marathon right now because I'm not training for a marathon. So like, why would I go lift weights and do all this stuff to try to have a little bit of cardio, and then when I get pushed in jujitsu, realize that cardio and all that other shit that I did that did nothing
Different.
for me. It did nothing for me. So you got to think about that same kind of thing in life. And I'm very fortunate in that the fight culture that I grew up in allows me to transition all of those other things into my daily life. So like when you say about the podcasting, it's like, yeah, you could have did it in a different fashion, but now you're doing it, and cool. It's the right time to start now when you're ready to do it. You know what I mean? But don't dwell on it too much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like for me, I could have fought. I could have did a bunch of stuff. Unfortunately, when I did fight, my body started changing, and then I had to do the most manly thing that you can do in life. And this is, in my opinion, the one thing that most people get confused about with me, where they think like I do all this special shit. It's like, no, it's not really special. It's just I consider myself a man, and I got to do the most manly thing that I can. When one thing happens and life is coming at you one way and you can't escape that, and you know you like, I still need to survive. You pivot. You pivot, and you find another route to be able to continue to do what you got to do. Right?
Mm.
Like survival is the most important thing to me, and it's key. And so because of that, like my family structure, the lifestyle that we've built together, I want to make sure that they're going to be okay. And so if today every freaking job that I have quits on me, or I get fired or something like that, well, guess what? I got to go find a way still for my family to eat, right? In Spanish, we say, hay que traer la habichuela para casa, which means I still got to get those beans home because my family got to eat. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so because of that, pivot. So I'm very fortunate in that my curiosity has always given me the ability to feel like, hey, you know what? If this person did it, why can't I do it? If they showed me, they already gave me a little bit of their foundation. I just got to consistently build on that foundation, and from there I can do anything. And so that's what I do. And that's also in fighting. If I'm fighting, they call me the Matador when I was, and it's because I'm fighting big bulls in life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got these big bulls coming at me. And so what do? I put out the little red, what is it, like a pizza cloth? I don't even know what the hell you'd call it. And you put out the little bit, the bull comes toward, whoa, olé! You know, you move off.
Right.
That's literally what you got to do in life. Like if that thing's charging at me, I can't fight it head on. My arms are too short to box with God. Then guess what? I'm going to pivot and do something else. And that's the truth. Like I have to do that, because that's survival is the most basic of needs that you have.
Especially when you got other people depending on you.
Yeah, 1000%.
With so actually, let's get into the real quick the breakdancing thing.
Okay, sure.
So I'm jumping around a little bit.
No,
but,
that's okay, man.
So that was actually one of the first things I think you mentioned when I first started coming into this job. We started, like you said, you started asking questions, conversation started.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that. I was like, oh shit, like, wait, what? Like, you know what I mean? It was kind of something that like
you don't hear very
often. Yeah. But I could see you, I could see you out there.
Okay. So it's cool, because I'd like to think that I was a lot better than what I was, but I got buddies who are really doing well with it. Shout out to like the Little Rascals and Ground Effects crew and all those guys that I grew up with that gave me the foundation of what it was to do what I do now. Okay. So like at 13 years old, I was like 11, 12. Like I said, we moved to Brockton, kind of a tough area. And you start to know little local legends in your neighborhood, right? There's always going to be those guys that are larger than life, that have a big story and a big following. And every time somebody mentions their name, there's nothing that they can do wrong or stuff like that. So the kid that lives across the street from me is a great friend of mine. His name's Osvaldo Baez. I love this kid.
Keep going. I'm gonna check.
All right. Him and his cousin Herman dances. And his cousin Herman is really cool with these guys from like the Ground Effects crew and all this stuff. And so they start introducing me to what it is to breakdance. And so like, they're dragging out their linoleum in the street. And it's crazy, because this is in the 90s and breakdancing was really big in the 80s. But the culture is still very big. It's just underground. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people don't know about this. but I'm a bad kid at this. And I say I'm a bad kid because there was a point in my life that I was like a loose cannon. Like I didn't care anymore. I was like, okay, if this is how life is going for me, this is how it's going to be. I'm going to be tough. I'm going to be rough. I'm going to do whatever it is that I need to do to survive. Because again, I pivot. And I realized that all that soft shit that I had going on, hey, how you doing, Michael? You know what I mean? I'm playing like that shit's not going to work no more. And I've always been a comic book nerd.
Mm-hmm.
I love my comic books. And I remember in the neighborhood, I'm wearing a Superman shirt. And I thought Superman was awesome.
Yeah.
I can't use the exact terminology that the kid said to me to be polite, not get the podcast like demonetized or whatever it is. But like, some kid sees me, he goes, "Hey, you," and I go, "What's up?" He goes, "You like Superman?" And I thought he was serious, so I was like, "Yeah, I love Superman. Superman's a," you know what I mean? And so are you. And then they jump me. And so I'm like, yeah, like I'm like, yo, Clark Kent, Baba, I'm gonna have to, button up again. I can't. I'm gonna do the reverse Superman. I'm gonna button up, bro. I ain't showing you no more.
Danger comes, you cover it up.
And so now I change. You know what I mean? Now I become more aggressive because that environment molded me. So now I have a little bit of chip on my shoulder. You know what I mean? So my buddies are breakdancing. I'm still kind of not into it. I'm involved in like a little gang activity and stuff like that with the other stuff because again, that's another thing that at that point I felt like I didn't have a choice. That was stupid because I always have a choice. You do. You always have a choice.
But you're looking for community and
but yeah,
possibly,
like, it's kind of like the aspect of like you got a bunch of little guys that are growing up and they're coming from broken homes or whatever, and they're more relatable, and they come together in a unity to try to protect one another. It's not even that at first that you're just attracted to that lifestyle. Because for me, that shit wasn't attractive. It's just I'd been getting my ass whooped consistently, getting jumped, and the kids in the neighborhood were all together. And it's like, okay, well, I need something. Because again, I'm like at this point I'm like 4'11". I'm not even all of 5 foot. You know what I mean? So it's like I can't keep going against these giants by myself. And so I found that community there, and that's a one thing in my life that I regret a lot. I don't regret the friendships that I made with it. I don't regret the community of it. Because again, that was a different type of community. But it was a community, but I do regret that, like embarrassing my family a little bit, that shit and stuff like that. Or even myself, like that tarnishing my reputation at one point because of that. So like I can always be 100%. But had I not gone through that stuff, had I not gotten suspended, had I not gotten expelled from school and all that kind of stuff, I wouldn't have put myself into the position where I get probation, get put into these teen programs, and I end up at this teen program, and I gotta like talk to this guy. And this is one of the greatest stories that I have personally, because this also brought me into like the trading card scene and everything that, eventually I open up a store and have comic books and all. So I'm being an ignorant 13-year-old kid, you know what I mean? And I got to go talk to not like a counselor per se. But I'm trying to prove that I'm a tough kid. So like, they put me in the room with this big, tall guy, a guy who really changed my life. He passed away recently, so shout out to him. I love that guy, but out of respect to the family, I'm going to keep quiet. And they put me in the room with this guy, and he's like, "So, this is my name. How you doing? What can I do to help you out? And, you know what I mean? Would you like to talk?" And I just sit back. Shit. I'm not saying. And who's going to crack first, right? So the guy gives me a little smirk, closes his mouth. We sit there for an hour. Next session, we sit there, nothing. The third session, I go in there, and he says, "Hey, we got to talk." And I go, you don't care about me." I was like, you know what I mean? You don't know my lifestyle. You don't know who I am. To you, I'm just some charity case. I'm just a Spanish kid that, this guy's Caucasian at the time. And or not at the time, he's Caucasian. And I have a different look at what it's like. Like, because growing up where I grew up is like very cultural. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people try to push on you that this is easier than that. This is why I don't believe in racism. Well, and I'll go into that a little bit. But so I go, you're just some white guy doing a charity case for a little Spanish kid in the neighborhood. I was like, and fuck you. That's literally what I said to him. And he's like, okay. So he stays quiet. And that was really rude of me. And I should have never said that. But again, I'm a stupid kid. You know what I mean? So anyways, he reaches into his pocket, pulls out a pack of matches. And then I go, hey, what's that? And he goes, hey, fuck you. Right? He goes, fuck you, right? And then I was like, drop my head. And then he starts talking to me. And then after that, it was over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it took somebody showing me that I was an asshole at that moment to me realize like maybe this guy's not half that. And this guy helped me out tremendously in my life. He introduced me to a lot of people. But he gave us our platform to be able to drive us to competitions. That changed my life. Because he took me to my first breakdancing show and I saw guys dancing in a competitive form. Like I had seen guys dancing in my neighborhood. I saw them dancing in a competitive form and it made me want to not be involved in the bullshit that I was involved in, because then it gave me the opportunity to dance. Like I started caring about dance and the shit looks cool. And like the one thing about b-boying that I really loved was that like it didn't matter whether you were what crew you represented. Like the minute you hit a move and you hit it with such style,
undeniable.
And the whole crowd would jump and they would all jump in and like celebrate with you because it was undeniable that what you did was so slick, so smooth that everybody got hyped about it. And so because of that, I got closer to the other guys that I had seen in the neighborhood dancing and stuff like that. And now it's not Jose's a delinquent anymore. It's like, hey, Jose's got a little bit of a troubled past, but he's trying to move forward with his life. How about you guys give this kid a break? And now I start building community with people who are actually trying to get me out of negative aspects. Because up until that point, what it had been was my experience with the neighborhood was getting into fights, having to defend myself from after fighting. I had kids put guns in my face, people shoot at us, you know what I'm saying? Like just a bunch of stupid shit. And like I try to avoid that story as much because a lot of people have where I grew up, it's a norm. Like you can't say that that's like something that you're particularly special to. It's just, it's normal for it. Like you become accustomed to violence. You become accustomed to street life. You become accustomed to seeing people hurt. You know what I mean? It's a normal thing. Mind your business, you know? And then when shit happens to you, it's like, okay, well, I've already seen this happen to this guy. I'm not going to end up caught up in this position, which is also why I moved at 13. I split because I was like, bro, I'm going to get killed out here. You know what I mean? Because I have this ego that I've been developing over the years and it's going to get me killed, you know? And like, it's going to bring problems to my house. My mother's got little kids living in a household. You know what I mean? Like if people come for me, then hurt my kid, brother, sister, my mother, my parents, you know, it's shit like that.
Right. Yeah. My dad, right, for example, he's the one that I think experienced the most that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like whether it's him, whether it's family members, all that stuff. And I was very fortunate at a pretty young age to move into the general area, you know. So there's times when like I have an appreciation, obviously, for the area and stuff. And I know that I'm very fortunate. But there's like some guilt in like knowing, okay, I got most of my family's still in Honduras and obviously, you know, we got bills, everybody got things to take care of, right? But there's guilt in that, you know, you have family stuff that are going through that type of stuff or have gone through that type of stuff, and fortunately I wasn't put in those positions. You know what I'm saying? And it's like now it's like, okay, well, how can I help? You know, but then it's like you get caught up in your own survival. You know what I mean? Or like not survival in that sense, but in sense of paying bills and just living. You got to provide and stuff. So yeah, I fortunately I was never in those situations, but I would say also like with you knowing your skill set, let's say, right?
Yeah.
Which is I only laugh because like the type of people you might have to deal with sometimes.
Yeah.
But knowing that like in this conversation, learning, okay, you left at 13, the environment you grew up in certain neighborhoods that you had been in. There's a confidence I think that you get from that it's harder to get, I think, in if life is easy. You know what I'm saying?
So I have a coach. Name's Ricky Fields. I love the guy so much. Him and I have very deep conversations about that kind of stuff, and I can relate to him a lot more than I can to other people. Because he understands, and we speak about things that I don't speak about publicly because one, they're incriminating, or two, you know what I mean, they could get other people in trouble, stuff like that. But when you talk about the confidence that comes from that, it's from a long time of genuinely being afraid. Like a lot of people will look at things and say, "Wow, Jose's doing this, Jose's doing that." But again, I don't personally particularly feel, and we're gonna get into we'll get into a little bit deeper note right now with this. I don't particularly feel like I'm super special. I don't particularly feel like I have something that other people have. What I do feel is like the fear that that fear is what kept me alive, and it's what made me strong. Because at some point, I'm 13. I'm going from place, 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 place. I'm not knowing if I'm gonna be able to eat all the time. Like I was fortunate the first few places that I went to were other relatives, but they got their own shit going on. And when things go sour for them, I'm kind of like, I'm the odd man out. So now what happens to Jose? I mean, do I get to stay? Do I have to go? Do I go back to the same environment I came trying to escape from? So that fear forces you to grow, because it forces you to say like, okay, well, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like, I think 18 for most people is like when you try to leave the nest before, at least when our generation was supposed to be like 18, you leave, go off, you start the world. Now I see guys like 27, 28 years old still living at home because they can't afford to, or circumstances change, or again, like to go back to what we said earlier, the norms are not the norms you grew up with. And so, but at that young, I had no restriction. Nobody telling me anymore like, oh, you can't do this, don't do that. It was, and this I'll say that I'm blessed. I was the kind of kid that if we went to the public pool and the shit said no running, I didn't run. I'd wait for the dumbass kid to smack his head against the concrete, bitch, written right there on, you know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't have did that.
Yeah.
Like, but I learned really quick, like there's a reason there's rules, and there's a reason that they're implemented. And whether I want to follow them or not, at some point you have to know what's going to be beneficial to you when you like, I love, there's like a 50 Cent quote of him on a podcast where he said, when shit hit the fan, like there was nobody there for me. Like I didn't have nobody to run to save me. Who was I going to run to? Myself? Like I have a stepbrother who's my big brother, but he never lived close. He never lived close by to me. He wasn't, his thing was sports. If a fight broke out, I have a better chance defending myself. Not that he wouldn't help me out, because I do feel that particular time he probably would have. But all I had was me. So if I only have me, who am I going to go run to? My mom? My mom's going to go defend me? No, she's not going to defend me. She would. She'd give her life for me. I know that. My dad's going to tell me, you got to be a man about this. My stepfather, he's got his own thing. He got his own kids. You know what I'm saying? He would, my uncles, they're not going to get involved in little kid shit. But that little kid shit got out of hand many times. And so with that being said, I had to learn to build up that confidence. And it becomes a shield. It was like the armadura of God for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a very strong faith in Christ, very strong faith in God, because that's what got me through all of those tough moments. All those nights praying, all those nights in tears, and where you struggle, because it's true, bro. Like, it is easier, but it wasn't then. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Now I look at everything and it's like, man, I'm not going to drown in a fucking glass of water over every problem. You know, but there's people that I see that their problems are very real to them. But to me, it's like you're literally drowning in a glass of water. You're just looking at it like it's the depth of the ocean floor when truly take a step back and just tip that some bitch over
Right.
and let it drain. But at the time, it's the worst thing they've gone through. So for me, I was fortunate in my life that those things happened early on in my life. And because of that, I'm able to look at things from a different perspective. But it's not like it was easy, bro. You know what I mean? Like it was a very tough thing. But again, I I I bypassed those feelings in public by surrounding myself with the guys who dance, with the guys at the gym, with all of those things because that's what kept me sane. Because if not, I would have cracked just like everybody else. You know what I mean? Because life is scary, bro. Truly. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what walk of life you're in. Like life is scary. You could have the best outlook on life and tomorrow something change like that. Nothing. And you weren't prepared. You couldn't prepare because you can't prepare for things. So you start to build up. And that's where I was fortunate, where it was like, okay, I did that. I suffered those days in silence, those fears that I had. I made sure that whatever it was that made me scared also made me strong. Like Rocky is one of my favorite movies. And when they talk about the fear, you know, that fear is your friend, fear is your Frankie fear is on your shoulder and stuff like that. That shit's real, man. I truly believe that. Like being afraid is a good thing because it keeps you sharp. Being frightened is the worst thing you can go through in your life. You know, because when you're afraid, you think of what could happen and you try to make sure that every move that you make is so that it doesn't happen. And that's also involved in fight culture as well. But being frightened, your heart rate jacks. You turn pale, you freeze up, and now you don't know what to do. So everything that I've done in my life up to this point has been out of a healthy fear of like, okay, I got to do this by myself. I got to survive. I got to make sure that I don't screw myself in the long run. And also, I got to make sure that I don't spread myself too thin because if I do, then it's going to be hard for me to come back. And I've had to learn how to juggle and how many balls I can. Like for real, like I think my dad was telling me one time he was like, you gotta know how many balls you can juggle. And the cool thing is my dad and I have a really great relationship now, but my father and I didn't have a great relationship growing up because I always wondered to myself, like, well, why am I here by myself? Like I see other guys, they got their both parents, they got all this. And so it's a normal thing, I think, for a kid whose parents separate. But I didn't understand why when I did see him, he was really tough on me and everything. But now I know as an adult, like, preparing me for this unpredictable life that we live. And so he was trying his best to make it so that I understood. And my mother, by the way, is always been great to me. Like I can't say, and I feel bad for my mom because I put her through a lot, you know. But I can't say that that she wasn't there for me, even though I left early. It's just like, what was she gonna do? She gonna let me stay there and then I get killed, and then she get a call that, you know, her son got killed or something like that, because that's the kind of shit I was involved in. You know what I mean? No, she had to let me go and try to help me find a different place to try to see if I could do better. And then there was moments where I was thriving and doing better, and then things happen, and you get into a really weird space. You know what I'm saying? And so things change. Again, life is unpredictable. Like I remember I moved to New Hampshire. I thought things were great. And then all of a sudden, where I was staying, things change. And in like a matter of seconds, I get uprooted again and go to the next place. And I'm like, damn, bro. But the dancing was a point of being able to find community. Like if you're like what you asked earlier about your son, if your son collects or if he plays a certain game or if he does something, all he's got to do is just walk into a place. Hey, I do this. It's somebody, oh, that's so silly or whatever. But somebody else might be like, hey, I like that stuff. Boom, there you go. Now you got your connection. Now you got your point. I found that because of my curiosity, I could connect with anybody, which made it very easy for me to make friends wherever I went. So as long as I could do that, I was going to be okay. And I met a lot of really great people along the way that helped me out. Like, you know, you make it happen. But the breakdancing, that guy opened up the door to take me to the competitive scene. The kid from across the street that beat my ass when we were young kids, like for real, he opened up the door for me to be able to see what breakdancing was. And then I go back to where I was from and show it to the other kids from where I'm at. And slowly we start forming a group. And then the group of guys that I form are lifelong friends right now, like my buddy Aaron, Gavi, Camacho, Trevor, Gabe. This is just a bunch of them. You know what I mean? Danny, and then I got Papito and like Baldi, and all of these guys that all become really close friends with me that I still call them up to this day. And it doesn't matter if I see them once every 5 years or something. It's right from where we're at. You know what I mean? We can keep going. But I meet some very influential guys in my neighborhood, like guys who are larger than life. And then I meet their brothers, close with their brothers, and they bring me into the brotherhood. And that's kind of what got me out of that silliness, that point, you know, up until that. Then things happen.
Yeah. Cycle, yeah.
And I revert to a lot of things till I move here. And
then you said that your mom had to she knew she had to let you step out, figure stuff out. And you know, I'm sure it depends on the kid in terms of what are they going through, what are their experiences, you know. And I think each kid is different. You can't parent, in my opinion, you can't really parent the same for all your kids. You know, you got different personalities. You want to be fair, but you want to, has that, or will that affect the way, like with your kids? And I don't get too, you know, personal or whatever, but in terms of like knowing when to allow your girls to kind of figure stuff out. Okay, this is an issue. They're having a struggle here, maybe at school or whatever it might be. When do you allow them to figure it out? And because you see a lot of parents who just jump in right away. You know what I mean? Like if there's an issue, they're gonna jump in. They're gonna solve everything for their kid. And when do you allow a certain level of like not danger, but kind of, you know what I'm saying?
So I gotta be 100% honest with you. With a lot of with my older girls, unfortunately, because of things that fired, I was not able to be there the way that I would have. And they're very fortunate that they have really good moms. And I'm very fortunate. Mothers were very good with them. Like my relationship with them might have been a little bit rocky or whatever. But that shit happens and it is what it is. And I'm very thankful that daughters, and I will always owe them 100%. But what I do say to my older children is the fact that I tell them like, hey, here's the truth. This is the way my life went. It's not the norm. You know what I'm saying? So I look at things from a completely different light. You know, like I'm not going to tell you what it is that you can and can't do. What I will do is make a suggestion on why you should and shouldn't. Now you can take that and you can run with that, or you can do your own thing. But what I try to explain to them is like, in the end of the day, it's kind of like what went on with me, where it's like, when you make a mistake, nobody there to save you. Can't pull you out of that. Like, there's very real consequences for what you do, and especially when you're young. Like, there's still constant things that I did when I was very young that if I was to stand in front of a court of law currently, they're going to pull up those things, and I got to prove to them like, hey man, I'm 35 now, dude, 36 years old. Like I'm not that guy. I haven't been that guy for almost 20 years. Like that's silly stuff. I have to try to pull out a list of things that I've done and steps to show these people that I'm not that guy anymore. But those consequences are very real, and I try to express that to my children, and even the children that I mentor and teach in the gym. Where it's like, hey guys, the stuff you do now, it has long-lasting effects, and you got to be careful with it, because you think it's like, oh, I just made a mistake when I was a kid. It's like, They don't give a shit about that. They're always going to label you, and so because of the labeling, you got to be very careful because, how they say first impressions last a lifetime. If you'd have met me when I was a young kid behaving stupid, you know what I mean? You might have a different perspective of me. Even if you've seen me change, you'll always remember the fact that at that one point in my life, things were a certain way. And so because of that, with my children, I just tell them, hey, like, I have all girls too.
Mm.
Like, it's different. You know what I mean? You have boys and girls, so I'm assuming that you parent a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you try to be sensitive to what, like, I train boys in the gym. I try to be sensitive to what it is for them to be going through certain things, but I'm not very careful in the way that I tell them, like, hey,
Right.
suck it up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the reality. It's harder to be sympathetic, not sympathetic, but like, I know what it's like to, I don't know what it's like to be a young girl growing up, right?
Yeah.
But I do know what it's like to be a man growing up, and I feel more comfortable pushing those boundaries in terms of like, all right, you can do more. I know you can do more. I know, what I mean, that type of stuff. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I got one girl, so I'm a little softy for her. You know what I'm saying?
No.
I love my boys too, but of course,
For me though, like, it's like when I get young kids in my gym who are talking to me, and it's like, yo, pull up your socks, kid. Pull up your socks and keep going. You know what I mean? The waters are gonna get a little muddy. You know what I mean? And sometimes you're gonna go through things that you truly don't enjoy.
Mm.
And the truth of it is, and this is my favorite saying, it is what
Right.
it is. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme, reason, or explanation for certain things. Sometimes the shit just is what it is, and you got to go through it, and it sucks. And you wish that there's a good explanation, but you're never going to find it. You're never going to get it. And because there is no explanation for it, you just got to endure. And it's tougher for me to explain that to my girls in the aspect of, like, because I don't understand what it's like to be in a female mindset or even understand the changes that females go through. Like, those hormonal changes and imbalances and stuff that they end up going through like once a month, that must suck, man. You know what I'm saying? So all I tell my girls is like, hey, do the best you can. Remember that you have one name, one reputation. Don't damage it. Other than that, I'm not going to judge what you do. I'm not going to question who you are. I believe that your mother raised you smart enough for you to understand what's right and what's wrong for you. And me being dad on the outside, always checking up on you and calling you and trying to be a part of your life, I've been able to tell you, like, when you're with me, like, what's good and what's not good, and what you should and shouldn't do. And but just be honest with you. Like, I got one kid, never cussed in front of me. 18 years old, never cussed in front of me, never said nothing. Very sweet. She got good feelings. My other girl, my second daughter, I think she lets them fly, brother. She lets them fly. And she's the most like me.
Uh-huh.
And she's also sweet. Very good kid. She's not a bad kid, but she'll let you know. Let you know right away. And because she's so expressive, I can understand when she's suffering or when she's in pain. I can understand it a little more than I can with my older child. And then my third daughter, she's like, her energy is through the roof. Like, she's sporadic, she's fun, she likes to dance, and she's like, I will kill you if you hurt my family.
Yeah.
Like, it's different with her. Like, she's willing to fight with anybody at any point to try to defend her family because she's the big sister. That's how she looks at herself. Because in her household, she's the big sister, And so I'm very also understanding of all them. They're all different. Then my youngest little girl, esa nena, she's like so attached to me. She won't leave my side. Like, I go through some health problems now currently in my life that are a little bit difficult and challenging for me. And my little girl will literally come bring all kinds of stuffed animals when I'm laying down in bed. I can't move. She'd bring all the stuffed animals and put them there, and she'll go wet a rag and put it on. She's only 6 years old, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel bad because I don't want her seeing that shit, But at the same time, she's always there like, Daddy, I'm going to help you. Daddy, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do, and it breaks my heart a little bit because I don't want her to see me going through those struggles. But to know that she's such a sweetheart that she wants to be there is always a good thing. And I have a great relationship with my children. But for me, I think having the aspect of the way I grew up and everything gives me a perspective of understanding that, like, hey, this kid's going to make a mistake. You know, this kid's going to go through some shit that's going to suck. She's probably going to tell me one day that I don't know what I'm talking about or something like that. Or that I haven't, you know, I'm going to have to deal with the very true realities of what it was to be an absentee parent because of circumstances and situations that they will have no understanding of. But that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Because that has nothing to do with the way I made them feel growing up because I wasn't there. And I think being a realist is the most important thing you can do as a parent because the one thing I noticed, like, I see certain people that I really respect and I love them. You know what I mean? I love them, I respect them, but sometimes I see that they have trouble with the children. And the reason is because the best attributes that I see of them, their kids see the shit behind closed doors that nobody had to see when I was going through. You know what I'm saying? And so because of that, kids see your bullshit. So it doesn't matter what you portray to the public, what you portray to people, your children truly know who you are behind closed doors. And that's why you got to be careful. That's why you have trouble. Now, the good thing is they see that, but at some point they're going to understand that you were growing up too, you know, and that we're all growing till the day we die. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I think that's a good thing about that.
How old were you when you had your first?
Oof, that was 17. I was going on 18.
I trying to think here. I was 18. I think when he was born, I was like, so a little older, you know, but still, like, in a lot of ways, obviously, like you said, we're always growing stuff. Like, that's another thing that sometimes I think about. Man, I fucked up a lot. You know what I'm saying? As a dad, and it's stuff that, like, and even to this day, like, always trying to better and stuff, and I still mess up a lot. And that's something that's, like, I feel like there's things that sometimes I'm like, you know, when you're growing up, I'm not gonna be like this. I'm not gonna do this, you know. And then it's almost like you end up almost like bringing that to fruition somehow. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, how, you know.
In Spanish, we have that saying,
Okay.
"Hijo fuiste, padre será."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And for the viewers, that means like you were a son and daughter, but one day you're gonna be a father, mother. You know? And what you just said is it's good because it's like it's true that you try not to manifest those things, but life has a very funny way of repeating itself, and when it does, it's just a reason for you to remember that we're not so different and that you can't stop life itself. You know, you may not, I'm not going to do this, but just doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like I used to tell myself, I never spank my children. Never do that. And if I truly believed that, because growing up, I got my ass whooped a lot because of smart mouth or or I needed some of those lessons and stuff like that. And got in a situation where my daughter was very young and she stuck her hand in a bowl of, like her mother was mopping. She put her hand in a bowl of bleach and she went to put it into her face. And the first thing I did was fly and spank her on her leg. Like just boom, like just to like, cause I was nervous. I didn't know how to get to her fast. I was shocked.
Right.
And when that kid let out that scream and I saw my handprint across her leg, like I broke down myself because I was like, oh shit. But then I realized like, it was like to shock her so that she didn't hurt herself.
Right.
So then it kind of made me realize like, okay, well, why did I get in trouble? It wasn't to ever hurt me, to try to embarrass me or whatever it was so that I didn't do this shit again. So in a certain way, like, I understand it. I still choose not to. But there's times where like I find myself like the kid gets too out of that. I make the threat, then I realize like, what are you doing, bro? You know what I mean? Like that's against your principle. So to one aspect, you have to stick to your principles and stick to your guns. But I never judge somebody for doing anything because if you're truly trying to look out for what's in the best interest of your family, whatever way you choose to discipline or speak to or comment, that's up to you.
Or,
But for me, like I get that.
yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah, and to be clear, it's not like I'm. It's not to say I don't want anybody to think, okay, like, oh, he's fucking parents or stuff. Not necessarily that. Like, I have great parents. I can never, like, obviously every parent excuse me, every parent makes mistakes, and there's
Yeah.
obviously everybody has moments as a kid, maybe you're like, oh, like, I bet you they would have done certain things different, but I'm so appreciative of what my parents did, and for bringing us here and how hard they work and everything, that it's real hard for me to be like, man, they fucked up something, you know what I mean? Because I don't really feel like that, you know what I'm saying? Even though there was, because it's like you said, we were little shit sometimes.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, yeah, just to be clear, like, it's not necessarily that. It's just like I had certain thoughts of, this is how I'm gonna be, even when my first son was born, thinking I'm gonna. Well, I'm not gonna put this out there.
All right, let me just ask you real quick. Like, all right, your political values, have they changed over time? Ever?
Yeah.
Okay, that's literally probably what it's like to be a parent, right? Like, you think you're gonna do things one way, right? That's why that famous commercial, you live and learn and get loves. I love that shit. Like, because it's true, right?
Right.
At first, it's like, my kid's getting the best.
Yeah.
And then by the second kid, you're like, well, Papa, things are a little thin right now.
Right.
You're not getting the best diapers no more. You're gonna get that, because you realize that they're there to carry piss and shit. Like, why are you gonna spend money on that?
Like,
You know what I mean?
right.
Like, you're just gonna get a diaper.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't leak through, and if it does, I guess I'm washing your clothes. Like, I think the reason I brought up the political values is because that's kind of like what life is. Like, you can't always look at it through the same scope. Like, things change over time, and your values are going to change a little bit over time too. So when it comes to my parents, this point in my life, I try not to judge them as harshly as I would have. I try to change the glasses that I have on, because when you're a kid, you look at your parents like this Superman, Superwoman, stuff like that. But nobody is. You know what I mean? And when you realize that, like, oh, it wasn't so bad. They did the best with it. But for me personally, to comment on what you were saying, like, I'm very appreciative of the parents that I have. I still call my mom and dad every day. Every day. Even if it's just 5 minutes. And no matter how I'm feeling, even if they do something that I'm like it gets me hot, you know what I'm saying? Because I think about it, or something they said to me. But still to this day, the people that you love are the only ones that can hurt you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But even if they say something that I'm like, I don't agree with that or whatever, I'm just like, okay, I love you. I'll see you later.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because the one thing I don't want to have is, you know what I'm saying? We go back to that. I don't want to have regret. I don't want to have where I let my emotions get the best of me. I got brothers and sisters that I don't talk to right now, that I truly feel like I wish we could bridge that gap. But I've already made my peace with the fact that I tried. It's up to you. You know what I'm saying?
How much more time we got?
I could probably go for like another 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate you kind of getting into the parenting and the.
No, cool. I want to touch on everything.
I'm always interested in other people's takes, of course, and like, yeah, I don't know. It's different backgrounds, obviously different. Every household's different. Our neighbor, if they have kids, it will be, you know what I mean? Like, it's completely different. So it's interesting to hear how their experience was, how is that influencing how they are parent now and stuff. But well, I kind of want to get into a little bit of what you're doing now, also.
Okay.
Since you're, I know you got a lot of, you talking about juggling different projects and stuff, and back to your work ethic and stuff. I feel like you always got something going. You know what I'm saying? You always got a few.
Yeah.
Even if that changes over time, it's like you're doing something. You know, on top of family and stuff. So you want to talk about a few of those projects?
So right now we have the vintage barbershop that I purchased off of Lucas, which has been very successful, and I'm very happy. And I got to thank the community for showing all the love and support that they do. One, to him, and then two, to me in the transition of ownership. Everybody's been really great, and I appreciate that. But I've always felt like I want to consistently have the ability to grow and to give opportunity to others. So where Nerdy's Barbershop, which is the new project that we have. And we're calling it Nerdies,
Sounds
obviously,
awesome.
because it's everybody's nerdy about something. You know, like I joke around with the guys who are hunters all the time. They're like, "Oh, I'm not a nerd like you," and it's like, "Is that why you're dressed in full camo right now during the middle of the day, fam?"
Right,
Like,
right.
no, you're definitely nerd. You just don't realize it. You're just nerdy about hunting, or you're nerdy about the outdoors, or whatever it may be. You know, but I think I think having the ability to showcase a little bit more of what I love is what I enjoy, because I realize that not everybody has that space or feels comfortable in that space. And so being able to have those opportunities and just express through business what I love and the things open up doors to even more in the community, it's great. The reason I'm opening up this barbershop is one, I have a great business partner, a guy who's been coming up with me went through barber school together. He works at the shop now. His name's Josh Flood. Absolutely amazing guy, hardworking guy. Works as hard as I do. And he wants to have his own shop, and I want to have my own shop. And we've got young kids that came to the shop when they were like 13, 14 years old, excuse me. And they told me that they wanted to be a barber, and I told them, hey, this is the steps you got to take. This is what you got to do. Here's a machine. Here's a clipper. Go, like, essentially go ruin somebody's hair and
Right.
see whoever's brave enough to let you give them a bad haircut, find out that way.
Right.
The same way I did, because that's how I sustained myself. At 13 years old, I started cutting my own hair. And I learned that way. And I did things whatever way I could until I was able to graduate and make things happen. And that was a long time. So that's one thing that I again, don't judge. Doesn't matter how long it takes you to get things done. Just get them done at the pace that you can. And when you're ready, take hold of the reins and start driving towards your future, you know? But both of these young men that I encouraged when they were like 13, 14 years old, they graduated, or one of them's on their way to graduating. And so now I'm a man of my word, and I truly take that very seriously. So it's like, it's time. So now I got to open up a second shop because the one that we have is in a wonderful location, but I can't expand on that without losing that space. And I really love where we're at. So we're just going to expand. We're going to do a whole nother shop. And then within that shop, I'm going to explore all the other avenues of interest that I've had, things like podcasting. I'm going to have my studio there for graphic designs, because I am a graphic designer and I love doing that kind of stuff. And I draw my own comic book. That's where the Nerdies character comes from.
Yeah.
And I also I want to give the opportunity to others who might, I'm also doing t-shirt business.
Oh, bro. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's what Ben is, a
Oh,
family member of
Ben,
yours.
shout out, Ben.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that guy
Yeah.
too. But I want to give the opportunity to all of the people who have shared interest in working with me, to do it while I'm all in-house in one space so that I don't
So cool.
go too far. You know what I mean? Like, that's one thing that I've learned over the years, that like, well, this leads into this and opens up this door and goes to this door and goes to this door, but it's all going to be in the same space. I'm okay with doing that. Like, I don't want to go start a landscaping business. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that's not where I'm at. But to be honest, I have a warehouse in the back. So if I needed to store the stuff, I could. That's the point of what I'm saying, is like, I want to have everything in-house so that I can do everything and be able to give opportunities to others. Like, eventually, if I'm being real, I've never shared this with people, so I'll share it online with your audience. Eventually, I'd like to open up like a big community center. And in that community center, I'd love to have like music studios for children who are musical and instruments and stuff, and give them the opportunity to build up engineering, like be able to actually learn to use the equipment, have art classrooms for children who are artistic. Because the one thing this community does really well is it has, they do care for one another, and they do have a lot of great sports programs. But I'd like to express it in other avenues too, like, get a bunch of computers, get somebody in there who knows about teaching how to code and teach. It's like not so much like a tech school, but give kids the opportunity to express themselves creatively and grow, or even people who are just trying to get a second chance in life, and be able to give them the opportunity to kind of push. Like, I want it all in-house. I want to have a gym.
Uh,
I want to have all of this stuff. Like when I was a kid, the PAL program helped me out, the Police Athletic League. Again, I went there to go breakdancing,
Mm.
found a boxing gym upstairs. And then they had art rooms on there. Eventually, I'd like to have a big community center where I can do that, where we have all of the people who are willing to do those things and for nothing. For nothing. That's where I truly find my fulfillment. If there is the capability, if somebody who's hearing this has the opportunity to put me in a position where I might be able to do that, or you're a grant writer or something, that'd be wonderful, because that's where I would get the most fulfillment out of my life. Because I truly do believe that if money wasn't a thing, I'd be doing the same things that I'm doing right now. Because money just helps keeps the lights on and keep people fed, you know what I mean, in my house and stuff like that. But I don't give a shit about money. I really don't. I'm a toy collector. Like my friends know that about me. Other people don't. Like, you know, whenever people give me tip money, it's like, it's going to go to that really sweet He-Man I've been eyeing for a while. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't give a shit about money, man. Because you have money today, tomorrow you don't. And if everything crashes right now, the way people are talking right now, money, the value of our money's going anyway. So like, for me, I'd like to be successful. I'd like to be financially stable. But I don't want to chase that money, being rich is all that shit, because I don't get fulfillment from that. Where currently I get fulfillment is like, you know, Lucas Mass came up through our ranks in the gym, and he was able to become a champion. And
Shout out Lucas. Congratulations, man.
Yeah. And then he had a few tough professional fights, and then he was able to bounce back. And the sense of pride nobody's going to take away from him, that he was able to overcome something difficult and continue on in his journey, right? But when Lucas was coming up, I used to tell him all the time, I don't give a shit about this. I don't care. I truly don't. He knows that. I don't care about how many belts you put up. I don't care about how many medals you bring here. I don't give a shit about that. None of that means that means nothing to me. But I do care about you as an individual. I care about what you're able to accomplish that you said you want to accomplish, your goals. I care about, you know, he has a kid now, and this is just using him as an example because a lot of people know him in the community. Yeah. But I care about the day that his son gets baptized, that I get an invite. I care about, you know, that like that I get a seat at his dinner table. You know what I mean? Because that would be the ultimate. We're friends. I love you. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But these people that God brings to my life, they could go anywhere that they want in their life, and I'm going to support them because we're a team. As a coach, I care more about that than any dollar sign you can put. And sometimes it bites me in the ass, bro, because like I'm either too generous with my time or with my finances, or I'm too honest, you know. And a guy will say, like recently, I there's a kid that I trained that I love dearly. I really, really love this young man. And I wish this kid the best, but he's no longer with my team. And he said something that kind of that I don't want to get too personal, but he said something about like he felt that I was putting him down, and I've never done that in my life to anybody, bro. Like I don't believe in that, and that offended me, because it's like, hey, all I want is the best for the people that God brings into my life. Now, if you say that I did that, I apologize. It's not what my intentions were, but the truth is that pisses me off as an individual, because it's like there's no reason for my character to be called into question when I know for a fact that's not what I'm doing here. Everybody else can see it, but you're just letting yourself be in that field. And to be honest, man, I wish him and anybody else the best, you know, because like I don't care about this. Man, fighting is just a small portion of what we do. Like training is meant to do exactly that. It's meant to train you. It's meant to give you something that you're looking for. But I don't get paid a lot, you know? And it's not that I'm not compensated, because I am. It's not fulfilling to me in the aspect of compensation. Is not the main goal.
Right.
But what is helping, watching people become successful, watching my students grow, in whatever aspect they're going to grow, and then go on and take on the world and be the best versions of themselves. I truly feel like, how can you call yourself a man if you don't do anything to change the immediate future? And I'm very fortunate in the aspect of that there's a lot of families in this community that give me the opportunity to take part in their journey when it comes to their training, and they invite me to their houses to hang out, and I get to have cookouts and get laughs and all that stuff. That shit means more to me than any medal you could. The medal makes you happy, and that makes me happy that you won, happy. But truthfully, if you go into any competition with the mindset that you're going to lose, shouldn't be there. So that's why I'm hard in the training room, and I tell people like, hey, we're here, do your job. But outside of the room, like I prefer to meet people in the barbershop than I do at the gym. I'm serious.
Our origin story.
Yeah, no, I'm serious, bro. Because if you meet me at the gym, it's like I'm gonna be tough on you because that's what I have to do. But if you meet me outside of the gym, it's like I get to just be, I'll say, I don't have to be coach, but I genuinely care everywhere that I'm, and that's the most important people to know about. You know, like if I say I got you, got you. That's the realest shit to me. But if I got you, be prepared that if you don't want to hear what I have to say, it's because I'm giving you the same respect that I expect to receive from you. You know, like we deal. This is funny to me. My buddy Michael, he's like, man, I don't know. Sometimes you just tell people you stink. And it's like, yo, bro, because if I stink, I need you to tell me. You know what I mean? Like if I'm up in your face and, you know, yo, dick, take care. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But some people are embarrassed, but that's me being honest with you. We deal with people in the gym, man. Like, you got guys working 40, 50-hour-a-week jobs. Like, the best thing for us was when we had showers at the gym over in Weinsberg. I love that shit. I'd be like, hey, go shower before class. You know what I'm saying? Go, you know, you're just discreet about it. You know, but at the same time, like, I need people to tell me so that, because I'm not conscious of certain things. But that's, I feel like the reason I say that is because that's what it truly is to be a friend. Sometimes to have those uncomfortable conversations or say things that might piss somebody off because you genuinely care about them and you don't want to see them choice. Like, it's why I understand why people invite me to church all the time. You know what I mean? Like,
they tell you to take a shower, quote unquote, at church.
Yeah, they're like, hey,
you need to talk to God, bro.
What is it? Your soul's a little fucked up, bro. Like, you know?
Yeah.
But
no, I feel that. I get that all the time.
No, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, but truthfully, that's a whole nother podcast we could have.
We can definitely have a few more episodes.
I have deep personal beliefs about that stuff, and again, like I said, I'm very faithful in what Christ gave me. But I have my own personal freedom and why I don't. I will say this before we go too far. Okay, I will say this. I want to know God. That's it. I want to know God. I don't want to act like I'm God. I don't want to
judge like you're.
I don't want to spit out a bunch of scripture at you and use it to manipulate things. I don't want to ever come to you with an intention. You know what I'm saying? Like, because then this becomes disingenuous. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're only trying to be boys with me because you want me to go to church on Sunday, it's like, that feels a little weird, dog. But
or if they're more interested in you going, not just going to church, going to their church.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Now, like if we're friends and we've built up a long friendship and we're good friends and everything, and you're like, hey, Jose, I think this would benefit you in your life. I think you're making a lot of mistakes or whatever. Okay, fine, cool. I can respect you at that standpoint because we have enough of a relationship developed that we can communicate on things, and I respect and trust. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if it's just, you know, just come here, you know what I mean? Come here. I have my opinions, but my family goes to church and I'm respecting it. I respect everybody's beliefs, but I again, gray area, right? Like I live permanently in the gray area right now because I can't see things as black and white. I know what's right and what's wrong, but I also understand that like, let's just put this into perspective, and then I can leave on that note for me, so people get to know me a little bit better. To kill somebody's wrong, right? But to defend your land in defense is you have to do a little wrong to defend yourself, to protect the people that you love. If you can justify that, even though you know that it's wrong, you live in a gray space. And so for me, I look at things from that lens where it's like, not everything that's right is what we always should do, and not everything that's wrong is what we shouldn't do. Like, sometimes I gotta you gotta do things. Like, if a guy's fucking jumping off of a bridge and he's telling me life sucks, and I know sometimes life really sucks, I'm gonna be like, you know what? Take that leap. You're right, buddy. You got it all figured out. You know what I mean? Just go for it. Or am I gonna be like, yo, Papa, it's not that bad.
Right.
Like, we can figure this out. Just think about this.
Right.
Don't jump today. Jump tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we think about it. That's kind of how I look at things, in the aspect of like, hey, let's be realistic. Let's be realistic. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. We're definitely gonna do another episode if you're down.
Yeah.
We'll
Always,
do that.
man.
Maybe we'll get a few. We can probably get a couple other people around here too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I like this.
Hey, bring the primo in.
Oh my God.
Jeremy's the homie, bro. We'll have some fun,
That'll
bro.
be the longest censored.
Oh, it's okay. It'll probably be between me and him, bro.
Yeah. I'm just gonna sit back and watch,
laughing.
honestly. Like, yeah, we'll definitely get him on at some point. Before I'm gonna try and record a bunch of episodes before we move. And then whenever I come back, for sure. But I just want to say real quick. At the end of the day, like, we all make choices. We all, there's a path, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think everybody in the community that an opportunity to know this version of you, let's say, right?
Yeah.
And they love you, we love you, I love you, and I know that we all see the hard work, the dedication to the people that know you. Like, one of the biggest things is, like, that I appreciate about you and the circle that you keep around you is you guys all support each other in your endeavor. You know what I mean? And I have huge respect for that. And for you as an individual, there was one time where, you have rough patches in life. And one time I stopped in a barbershop. It was got one of the latest cuts, and you're like, hey, like, let's go get a drink. You know what I mean? So we drove out to Millersburg, got a drink, talked for a bit, and that was huge and rough patch. You know what I'm saying? And you always look out for the people around you, and I'd like to. Hopefully, I'm part of that circle. You know.
Of course, manito.
And so, yeah, I appreciate you.
Hey.
Thanks, man.
Te agradezco, brother.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. See you guys.
Man. Bro, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. So much.